My father told everyone at his retirement party that he had one son who thinks and one son who tinkers. He was right, just completely backwards about which was which. My dad idolized my older brother, Grant. Grant wore glasses, carried a laptop everywhere, and talked about his code at every family dinner. I came home from school with grease under my fingernails because I spent my afternoons in the auto shop rebuilding engines. To my father, this meant Grant was destined for Silicon Valley while I was destined for a name patch on my shirt. Every single day there was a comparison. When I'd come in from the garage, he'd look at my hands and say, Grant kept his hands clean because he worked with his mind. When I'd leave for shop competitions on weekends, he'd mention that Grant was upstairs building his future while I played with junkyard parts. When I got my old truck running, he told the neighbor, at least one of my boys will be able to fix the other one's Tesla. Here's the truth. I had a 3.9 GPA. I was captain of the engineering club because that's what automotive competition actually is, engineering. I'd won state in Skills USA 2 years running, and my senior design project, a hybrid conversion I did on a donated sedan, had gotten me recruiting letters from 3 universities' mechanical engineering programs. Real letters, with scholarship numbers in them. Dad never knew because he never asked. He assumed my grades were wrecked because my genes were. He skipped my state ceremony, both years, because we can't miss Grant's hackathon. He'd tell relatives at Christmas, don't expect much from the little one, but he'll always have a trade to fall back on. My uncle once asked how school was going for me, and Dad answered for me. He's hands-on, with a wink, like it was a diagnosis. Grant would sometimes try to defend me. Dad, he's actually really smart. Dad would clap him on the shoulder and say it was generous of him to look out for his little brother. Grant knew about my grades. He'd seen the honor roll printouts I left on the counter, back when I still hoped Dad might glance down. He'd quietly tell me he was proud of me, since nobody else would say it. Because here's the other truth, the one Grant carried alone. Those all-nighters coding were online poker. Grant had failed out of his computer science program in October, actually failed out, academically dismissed, and hadn't told a soul. He drove to campus every day, sat in the library, and came home describing classes he was no longer enrolled in. Dad never asked to see a transcript. Grant looked like a programmer, so he must be one. That's how my father's entire worldview worked. Costume equals character. It all detonated at Dad's retirement party in March. 40 people in our backyard. Dad stood up, glass raised, and gave a speech about his legacy, how Grant would carry the family name into the future, and how he just hoped I'd find a nice steady garage somewhere and stay out of trouble. He actually said, stay out of trouble, into a microphone in front of my grandmother. That's when Grant's academic advisor, who happened to be our neighbor's daughter, quietly asked Dad why Grant hadn't responded to any of the readmission deadline emails. Readmission deadline emails. Dad went silent in a way I'd never seen. He kept saying there was a mistake, that Grant was on track to graduate early. Grant finally stood up in front of everyone and said the words he'd been swallowing for 5 months. I've been out since October, Dad. You never once asked to see anything. You just needed one of us to be the smart one. 2 weeks later, my recruiting packet from Purdue arrived. Full ride, mechanical engineering, based on the hybrid project. Dad only found out because the scholarship office called the house to congratulate the parents of a remarkable young engineer. He went through my room after that call and found the other letters I'd stopped showing him, the transcripts, the 2 state medals, a recommendation letter from my shop teacher calling me the most gifted student I've taught in 26 years. He confronted me, actually angry, demanding to know why I'd hidden it all. I pulled out 3 years of honor roll slips he'd walked past on the counter. I showed him the 2 ceremony invitations, unopened in his email, timestamps and all. I told him, I didn't hide anything. You just never looked at the kid with dirty hands. He tried to pivot overnight into the proud father, telling the same relatives about my son the engineer. Grant's back in school now. I helped him study for his readmission. He helped me pack for Purdue. Dad asks about my grades every week now. Funny how he learned to ask.